Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Can you all believe it? It is almost August. It's the 4th of August, year 2021. We've been through this pandemic era for a year, 8 months. Unbelievable. We're here with our normal panel. Quite a few members have joined already. We have Caesar, who is our channel and a spiritual teacher. Good evening, Caesar. We are joined by April, who is our psychic, and she's been doing Reiki healing, all kinds of modalities of healing, as well as being a spiritual teacher that has provided quite a lot of guidance on our Facebook Live sessions. So good evening, April. We are also joined by our incredible Eileen. Good evening, Eileen, who keeps us all streamlined. And of course, we are here with, I think, I haven't seen Kelly online, but I see that he has joined the panel, right? So I didn't really have a very constructive question created. One of the things that we were talking about last week, if y'all remember, towards the end of the Facebook Live session, we had started talking about babies being colicky and is that the pain body? And one of the things that Summer, our wonderful creative co-creator, who keeps coming up with these questions, what Summer had asked was, she had a friend who had a terrible pain body, like they were going, I don't remember the exact scenario because this was like 2 weeks back, but the friend cried and cried and cried, and Summer realizes that not only did the friend have the pain body, but even she experienced like the pain body, right? So, and along with that, she also brought up that scenario of, if y'all remember in A New Earth, Eckhart talks about some woman releasing her pain body, and then he goes to an Indian restaurant and a guy in a wheelchair, like Eckhart is carrying the pain body, right? So her question was, have we experienced, how have the panel members experienced the pain body? April, did you want to get started on this?
How have I not experienced it? Yeah, that would be a tricky question to try to find out how I have not experienced the pain body. Unlimited, my mind's like running through, it's really unlimited amount of ways. I've had it where I have physical issues, I've had physical illness, and I've had, times where I've had depression. I've had times where I have been to places and I've picked up other people's energy, done readings and picked up other people's energy. So it's just really countless ways that I've had the pain body. And for me, when I started listening to Eckhart, his concept of the pain body is one of the things that really started to set me free. It really started to, I guess one of the things that it did was it gave a name or an identity to what it was that I was experiencing. And it also made it to where, oh, I don't have to have this. I don't have to carry this around. I don't have to keep this with me. So that's one of the reasons why I really loved the concept of the pain body. But as far as how I've had all aspects of the pain body as far as I can tell. And I now take it, I now know what it is. I can recognize what it is. I can stand with it and not let it be me. It's no longer me. I think that's the biggest, difference, is that's no longer who I'm not this, tired person. I'm not this, I was never an anxious person, but I have picked up other people's energy, and instead of identifying with it, I now realize that it's a separate entity. So, and I think that with, Samar and the example with the lady and the baby we talked about last week, that, children feel, they feel. So my first daughter, or not my first daughter, my last daughter, you guys know, she's deaf. And when she was first born, she failed the hearing test. And then at 2 months, took her back. We did a 5-hour brainstem test. She failed the hearing test. And I looked at the lady and I said, but she's talking. And when I'm like playing with her, she does respond. So, and the lady said, that's because you're close to her and she can feel your happiness. She said that. She couldn't actually hear me. She could feel me. And there was a point where I was so heartbroken over this, that my child was born so deaf. And I remember going to sing to her and then realizing, and just tears streaming, and just realizing she can't hear me. But then I stopped and I thought, but she can feel me. She can feel me loving her, exuding that love through my heart chakra. She can feel the vibration of my voice on my chest, right? So that's one of the things with the pain body is, to me, while you can have physical issues and you can do all that, it's more about the feeling, the emotion. And when I could separate from that, when I could see that that was a separate entity within me, to me, that's where my freedom really took off. So that's how I address the pain bodies. I realize that it's not me. I don't take on other people's emotions, and I'm very careful not to try to not to do that. Sometimes the collective consciousness, I think, gets us all, but yeah.
Thank you, April. Caesar, did you want to speak to this? The pain body, and have you experienced the pain body, and how have you experienced the pain body?
Well, of course, I've experienced the pain body. It actually brought me to the precipice of where I am today. For me, it was, let's say reoccurring deaths, multiple deaths that physically broke me down. Starting with the mental state, but now looking back, I realized it was the energy that basically coagulated and caused me physical pain. Today, I recognize when the pain body exposes itself, that it is an opportunity for me to address what it is that is causing that. So it allows me to look inward, look back, and bring that pocket of resistance that's causing the pain body to the light of consciousness. And we know once there, it's going to be dissolved and addressed. So it has to be that way. That would be the contrast into creating the opposite of the pain body, which is good health in that sense, free of the pain body. But you gotta use it as a tool, as a prime aspect of the total equation to be able to address the pain body, understand what it is and what's causing it, and then you are basically liberated from that particular situation that was causing the pain body to do its thing. So again, yeah, once you learn, what the pain body is, you're able, the awareness of it, first of all, is what's key. Second, understanding. Third, addressing it, bringing it to the light of consciousness. And fourth, letting it go. And with that notion, the pain body also dissolves in that way. Now, it may come back again with other instances through your thought pattern. Maybe some stuff that you haven't quite accepted in the past or surrendered to. That's been my experience of it. Particular things that used to cause the pain body to erupt no longer do. But on occasion, far and few between, it still is active within me. Not like it used to be. Very seldom do I experience the pain body. I would have just, out of the blue, sometimes it would be maybe a little, I don't want to call it depression, but it was sadness in a sense of maybe losing an animal that awoken the pain body within me. And I realized right then and there is that I haven't fully accepted, the isness of it that was causing that. So again, be aware of it, understand what it is, embrace it, fully accept it, turn inward, address it, and move on and find liberation through it.
Thank you, Caesar. So your advice is to...
Hi, Kelly.
Your advice is to completely experience it fully and completely. To dissolve it. Thank you. Eileen, and before Eileen starts, when I say the pain body, it is, I was trying to look for the definition and now I cannot find it. This is how spontaneous this Facebook Live Q&A is. Even though I knew I was going to ask that question, I didn't prepare with the background of what is the pain body. So the pain body, we are talking about any unprocessed negative emotion that is not fully faced in the moment that it is arising. Then it is stored in the body, like pockets of energy get stored, and that becomes the pain body, is what Eckhart talks about. So Eileen, did you want to give any examples of how you've experienced the pain body, like how Summer was saying?
Well, like April and Caesar, I've experienced it, feels in every way possible. Mentally, physically, I feel like that we talked about it being stored energy, but that stored energy can bring up physical pain, tension, reactivity, a slew of things, depression, all kinds of things. And I've experienced all of the above. And like Caesar said, it needs to be given space to process, to be, worked out. And we talked about the spontaneous healing of belief by Greg Braden a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about that when I finished reading it. And that's what he was talking about, like how that unprocessed emotions and feelings that we go through, that we have, it's that causes things like heart disease and things like that. So it's like we have to process that. You can't process the pain body by pushing it away or ignoring it. It has to be given space. It has to be, investigated and accepted as the present moment. And then you have the chance to dismantle it or, dissolve it. In my case, that's kind of how it felt every time. It's just kind of poof, gone. But yeah, been there. I was there for 42 years.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Since both Caesar and you talked about like focusing on like give attention to where you experience the emotion and it releases. For me, it was in 2018, I think it was not so much a pain body experience. It was like heavy emotion where I was going through she should not be doing this. She should be with a coworker. And I came back home, and that's why I love Spiral of Time. I think I put it repeatedly for an hour and a half, and I experienced my emotion of resistance. And it's like some energy released from my body.
Yeah.
And after that, I started laughing. And I've never experienced like that heavy emotion after that. Like never have I experienced any severe, like, oh my God, like I feel, yeah, I do feel irritation. But if I pay attention to it, it'll dissolve immediately. It doesn't stay for very long. So that's how we release the pain body. Is you need to know how to be in the stillness to allow the stillness to heal the emotion, right?
Yeah, I just think that there's a misunderstanding with people who are, starting on this journey that, giving it space and being with it is the same thing as like liking it. People don't want to sit with an uncomfortable feeling, but acceptance and liking something are not the same thing. You have to accept that, yes, this is what you're feeling right now.
That's correct.
It is what it is. So fully accepting it. And like Michelle, the member who was here with us for a few weeks, feeling it. Like, what is that emotion? How is it feeling in your body? Giving gratitude for what it is that it's showing you. Like, that's a lot of what healed things for me, was being able to give them space, truly feel them and accept them. And then eventually was grateful for every bit of it, even the yucky stuff. So yeah, it's giving it space, not focusing it in the sense that being, obsessive about it, but just paying attention to how your body is feeling, what your emotions are, and giving it space.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Beautiful. Kelly, I just wanted to introduce you if people have not, most of the regular members that attend the Facebook Lives are familiar with Kelly, but he's our one and only Qigong teacher. Sorry about not introducing you since I couldn't see you on the video.
I'll get out.
Welcome, Kelly. You heard the question?
Yeah, I've always found the term pain body rather interesting and more of an intellectual, perceptual analysis of what is more commonly referred to as the karmic body, because our karma, the way that we use our awareness, is how we create patterns, what we choose to believe in, our belief structures. Everyone has a karmic body. Everyone has karma. Everyone has patterns of belief structures that are embedded in their energy fields that cause them to repeat patterns and to cause them to repeat cycles of learning. To me, it's information. Whether or not it's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, soul level information, cosmic level of information, going through the belief structures that we carry with us, that we've inherited from our parents, from our family, from our society, from our culture, are really important to understand. The pain body concept is, again, you got to understand that Eckhart's first language is in English and has his roots in Dutch, which is a Germanic language, which they sort of tend to flip nouns and pronouns. My dad was, my dad's German, and he's always sort of like telling me German words and what this means. And in German, a cane is called a go stick, like literally the stick that makes you go. So Eckhart's use of the two words pain and body together, the way that they are a reflection of his roots of understanding grammar from a Germanic perspective. So when in his observation of understanding that space where he had his awakening, and he observed all of that trauma, all of that karma that he was carrying, which was what was causing him pain, makes perfect sense that he'd call it a pain body, because it is a body of knowledge. It's a body of information. And we all have our own personal information. We all have our personal soul contracts and our belief structures that either keep us in alignment with our soul and source, or that constantly pull us out, and our constant learning experiences. So yeah, I mean, I've experienced my karma. I'm understanding how my mind has worked in thought forms. And one of the main things to understand, I feel, is that thought and feeling actually have physical impact. And that when we get into that space where we get close to actually seeing our pain body or our karmic patterns, we get really uncomfortable physically. And it's really, really important to understand those feelings and those moments when we feel that specific kind of discomfort, when we actually get close to seeing, because we're actually feeling it and we're bringing it up to the surface. It's really, really important to understand how to have discipline with our awareness so that we can step out of the cycle of karma and step out of the karmic wheel of the illusion of time. Because all of our information is timeless. All of our information is multidimensional. And we will continue carrying our information with us through, onto the next embodiment, because it's about integrating and bringing everything home and aligning with source. The perspective that I have in terms of being a practitioner of Qigong, a martial artist, is that a person needs something physical, a physical point of reference for being with themselves, whether it's sitting, whether it's cycling, whether or not it's yoga, martial arts, Qigong, whatever form your meditation discipline takes is really, really important to have, so that you have a space where you can practice stepping into observation and feeling and observing your thoughts, observing your mind, and observing your projections. A lot of karma that we have happen to be mental and astral projections, or mental and astral energy, because we are separated from our bodies. So we can become aware of our patterns, we can become aware of our information just through mentally observing the drama in our lives and the patterns of drama and the cycles with our family. It's one of the reasons why family is our greatest teacher, because our family will always, without fail, like clockwork, come at us and try to hook us into drama when we're actually moving out of it, when we're actually getting stronger, like clockwork. And for me, that's been one of the main points of reference of understanding how I've been transitioning out of karmic patterns, or out of what Eckhart calls the pain body. Because your family and or those closest to you, friends, loved ones, who often will want you to stay in that limited space of pain, of separation, of karmic pattern that feeds into the joining of mental energies that friends usually have, in terms of, oh, hey, you got this in common, I have this in common, and people just sort of automatically assume stuff about you because you are interested in something. The perfect example is like the first time I ever went on a plane when I was a kid, and I told someone from I was sitting next to this woman from Sweden. She was flying to Montreal, and she asked me what it was like living in igloos. It was sort of like, we don't live in igloos unless you're Dene, or So I actually live like really close to like, you know, the Great Lakes, and I was explaining the geography, and she's like, oh, that's interesting. You know, it was again, you know, that geographic, you know, relativity and all those things. And, you know, some of those perceptions about Canadians that other people have where, oh, you live way up north, you know. So, you know, it's been like 30, it's been in the 30s for, gosh, like 3 weeks here, which is about like 105, I think.
Wow.
So, you know, it gets really, really warm here in summer. Although this is a little weird. The weather that we're having is weird. It just like keeps climbing and gets hotter and hotter and hotter as the day goes along, where, you know, usually peaks and then cools off. So that's been an interesting learning experience, sort of like dealing with a new weather space or climate space where, yeah, it doesn't really cool off at night anymore. You know, that's a perceptual paradigm of, you know, the contrast that I'm used to in terms of how, you know, my information that I have in terms of what I grew up with is different than what I'm experiencing now. So that dichotomy, you know, can be something as simple as that is something that people need to be aware of, that their, you know, their shadows, their egos can like sneak in through something that causes just a little bit of discomfort and hide deeper emotional discomfort that we're not aware of. So looking at your pain body or karma has everything to do with understanding how your mind works, whether or not you actually have discipline and control over your thoughts and feelings. And mastery of your thoughts and your feelings is essential. Not control, but mastery of observation and discipline to not be pulled out of alignment with your heart, to be pulled into drama or hooked into dense energy projections, you know, simple things like gossip and judgment, anger, you know, lower dense energy forms of emotional content. So yeah, whenever, you know, we're talking about the pain body, I'm going, well, yeah, karmic body, because it's all information. It's all information about our patterns. And that's the main thing that I always take away from our conversations about Eckhart Tolle's concept of the pain body.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm going to, I was hoping Eileen would be back, but I'll read the question. We did get a question and she joked. I said that I don't have a question and Troy comes through. Here's the question. April, this goes to you. My wife said I should leave many times. So should I stay or should I think instead of the should I go, should be should I go? What would you say, or what would your advice be?
Well, when I read that, you know, the first thing is I don't really know the situation, honestly, to be able to judge whether you should go or not. If your wife is asking you to leave many times, then to me, there is definitely some sort of breakdown in the relationship. That there's a break in the relationship. She's, you know, asking you to leave for a reason. So can't really tell you whether you should stay or go because I don't know your relationship. I don't know your situation, but I can say that if somebody is asking you to leave, the relationship is broken. The other thing is if the other party is willing, you know, have you exhausted all the options? Have you guys tried to talk? Can you talk? Can you have a conversation? Can you actually work on things? Can you do, you know, marriage counseling? Because, well, I honestly, I find that many times the relationship is already broken. The person can at least rest in ease and say, well, I at least tried all the avenues before I did leave. I tried, you know, to work on the relationship before I left. One of the other things that it kind of brings up for me is when I divorced my first husband, and he was trying to get the relationship back. One of the things I looked at him, he was saying, he's sorry. And then he was saying, that all these, types of things. And, I should have done this, I should have done that. And I said to him, I said, you know what? None of that matters anymore. And you deserve to go and start a relationship new with somebody where this karma is not there, who can like you, love you, be there for you, because at this point, that's not something I can do. So that's also, could be part of the equation, that if the relationship is that damaged and people are not being treated as we should treat each other as souls, then perhaps you need a new beginning. And so, but as far as your answer, honestly, without knowing anything, I really can't say, jump up and go.
So it almost is like focus on what is it that your wife is saying, change about yourself. Listen, really listen with your heart and soul. If she's listing 10 things, I'm just going to give a silly example of, you don't take out the trash. The trash is overflowing and you cannot see that you don't take out the trash. Then listen. Is that what you're saying, April? Like, look at all the potential in you that you want. Do you have the potential to change about the things that she's listing that you need to change?
Well, that is part of it. And the other thing is, as far as Eckhart has said this, even Joel Osteen has said this before, is that, but the wife has to be willing. The wife has to be willing to work on the relationship. But what you would do is you would focus on the good parts of that person. So while my husband may not take out the trash right when I need him to, I can focus on the fact that he works. I can focus on the fact that he kills the bugs for me. I can focus on, I can focus on, and I'm just using these as examples, but I can focus on the good things. So he could do that for himself, for his wife, but I can't speak for her. But I can say, now, of course, Caesar and Kelly are not an example of this, right? But I can say, guys, most of the relationships, they break down because there is not true communication and there's no true listening. The listening is not actually happening. When she's yelling about the toilet seat, or even he's yelling about the toilet seat, it's not about the toilet seat. Stuff, and this is where, Kelly had talked about months before about the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room has made you mad about the toilet seat, but it's really the elephant that's in the room that's the problem. It's not the toilet seat. It's not the dirty socks. It's the, I have said this so many times, but I can say that women do tend to talk a lot in metaphors, and not as specific as perhaps we should. But I also have to say that it seems like men don't actually hear what we're saying. So what does that boil down to? That's a communication problem. And if you would just stop and listen and talk and actually be present and listen, not hear what you want to hear and not project what you want to project, but actually be present with the person and listen, that fixes almost all communication errors and relationships.
Thank you, April. To me, it's like, it doesn't even have to be a partner. It can be a friend or it can be a coworker. No matter which human being you're interacting with, when they say something to you, it is showing there is a lesson we need to learn in whatever they're saying. Like, it almost is a spiritual lesson. Like, they're saying, oh, you always lie. If they say you always lie and we say, oh, I'm not lying. I'm not a liar. You're defending, right? But look, have we lied in the past? We may have lied. Everybody on this planet who doesn't lie. I've lied as a kid. So to this, I would say Eckhart has in The Power of Now, I think it's chapter 8 or 9, 8, I think, is called Enlightened Relationships. If you can read that chapter over and over again, and then chapter 10, The Meaning of Surrender, because sometimes wives have this, do you think, April, they have like this image of what my husband should be? And then now they're comparing the husband to this image. Kelly is nodding. So I'll let you answer, April. I'll go around the circle and
Yeah, I
Kelly.
think that when I work with people, we have an image of what everybody should be, including what your mom should be, what your dad should be, what your child should be. And the funniest thing is, it's not funny, but even if it's just a boyfriend or perhaps a girlfriend, you get into this relationship, okay? And then you are living together in this apartment, and all of a sudden, this boyfriend has no clue that he just signed the silent agreement to take the garbage out. He has no clue he signed up for that, but he did it. We never said, look, you being my boyfriend moving in, instant garbage man, right? So he's like, and when he doesn't take it out and you get upset, he's just like, oh, who said it's my job? But we give all these meta communication, all these silent agreements, which are, those are our ideas, our attachments, our perceptions, our expectations of what we think a boyfriend or husband should be. But again, you know, and anytime you put an expectation on somebody or you're attached to that expectation, then you're going to end up with a pain body. You're going to end up hurt, right? So I go through this all the time with people and I say, well, how many silent agreements did you make with them? And they're like, what? I'm like, well, how many things do you expect of them just because they're now your boyfriend? Right? So I laugh, you know, now I laugh, but I had to look at myself. And then there came a time, you know, in my own marriage where I had to stop and I just had to realize that some of the things that I was expecting, because of wherever my husband grew up from, where he came from, his family dynamics, the background, he's not actually capable of doing those things. It's not actually, it's not, that's the concept where Wayne Dyer says, you know, if I want to give somebody oranges, what do I have to have? Well, I have to have some dang oranges to give them to weigh. This person doesn't actually have what I keep asking for. So then it's up to me to say, am I okay with that or not okay with that? Can I accept that or can I not accept that, right? And can I still have the same level of love and everything? So yes, we absolutely have expectations.
And it's both ways. Like he may have an expectation
Yep.
of the wife as well as the wife has an expectation of who he is, and they're not meeting the mental image of who each one is. So there's the breakdown in communication. Thank you, April. Beautiful insight. Caesar, do you want to talk about this? What advice do you have for Troy?
Well, you know, a relationship, it's a two-way street. The majority of the time, people tend to hang on to things that they should let go of a little, much longer than they should. Meaning when the signs are there, totally refers to that as, you know, relationships are there to help us grow consciously. You know, love is something that is to be held on loosely, not tightly. And when somebody's saying leave, hop on the bus, Gus, make a new plan, Stan. and be sure to get the lesson of the essence of the relationship. There's something there for you that you have maybe already learned and it's time to go, or that you still have to learn. But my take on stuff like that is that God puts people in your life for a reason, and He also removes them when their work is done. Again, I don't know the ends of the relationship, but if it was me and the better half, so to speak, is telling me to go, from my past experiences, you probably wouldn't have to tell me twice. You have three options, sensible options in every situation. Change it, and we know we have no control over people, places, or things. Leave the situation, the impulse is there, that's a verbal, or fully accept it. So again, without knowing the dynamics of the relationship, I really can't offer advice. But like I said, more so than not, people hang on to things that they should let go of much longer than they need to. But again, that could be, the longer you hold on in a situation like that, everything happens in divine timing anyways. When it's time to go, you'll go. And you'll know that because you'll have already left. So there's no second guessing. I always say if your life was a book, you would be at the exact sentence of the exact chapter that you are supposed to be at this exact moment. So again, gracefully, gather extract the lessons and the blessings. Be grateful for the time that you had spent. And having said that, the relationship can still be one of a loving, compassionate one. There's no need to actually leave in a situation like that. I believe we had a whole session on this in the past about burning bridges, yes, and how it's important to not do that and maintain. I was married for 20 years and we got a divorce and we're great friends today, probably more so than we were then, but we never fought, argued, never lied to each other. We had a few disagreements, but it was great, and we just grew apart. Simple as that. And I scratched my head wondering what happened for a while, but the why isn't important. I just know that today it's a good relationship. As with all relationships, when I part ways with workers, clients, it doesn't matter. It's important just to maintain a good, healthy relationship, even if there is no communication down the roads, but you always want to leave gracefully when you can. And don't have any regrets, whatever the decision is. You'll know if you are, focused on your present moment, your here and now, and pay attention to the impulses. And of course, the words, because the words matter. But again, there is, regardless of what you do, there is definitely a lesson to be learned in this. The law of impermanence says that every relationship will end, period. So do it gracefully, whatever it is, be grateful. That's it.
Thank you, Caesar. And it could be that Caesar is not actually meaning leave. It's like the steps are there. You accept it or you leave. You change it. If she's not changing, can you accept her as she is? If she's unconscious, then can you accept the unconsciousness of the other person and still live with that person, forgive? And that would be a spiritual lesson of forgiveness. Like every moment to moment to moment to moment, you would have to keep because an unconscious person will make yet another mistake, yet not so much as a mistake, they'll be unconscious because they know not what like Jesus said on the cross, they know not what they do. So she's not going to know what her action is And since you're following these teachings for so many years, you're aware that they're unconscious, but they they don't even know that they're doing something wrong. So that brings compassion. Can you bring that compassion and keep forgiving? Then you can accept and stay. But then if that's not the case, then you have to leave, because two pain bodies, like we were talking about pain bodies, two pain bodies are going to just generate negativity, egg each other on, and there's going to be fights, and there's going to be, even if you don't fight, just because you're in that sphere of, and a lot of people that have pain bodies just think, if I exist with a pain body, it's fine. No, you're emanating that negativity wherever you are, you're collecting, and then two pain bodies, you're going to just have a density of pain in whatever home you're living in. And you don't want, if you have kids, you don't want kids to be around that negativity. So do it for the kids.
Yeah, and that also just brings me back to a Wayne Dyer quote where he just says, own the decision that you're making, of course, fully accept it, as Tony would say here, but he said that there are no justified resentments. And with that, you can be solid in your decision moving forward. So
Beautiful. So no justified resentment means there is no way you would justify a resentment. So drop the resentment. No resentment is needed, no grievance, no negativity about the other is needed.
full on acceptance, absolutely. With gratitude.
Uncompromising yes to the present moment. Beautiful. Thank you, Caesar. Eileen, did you want to give advice? And then I'll move to Kelly, who has experience with nodding a lot too.
I was going to say something after April had talked, and now I can't remember what that is at the moment. But between April and Caesar, I feel like they really hit on much of what I would have added, except whatever that was, and I can't remember. It might come back to me. Can't think about it right now.
Like for you yourself, you say your partner is the greatest spiritual teacher, right?
Oh, yes.
So you want to give that little bit of experience so that they understand?
Sure. So now this is a long time ago now, but we were in this position actually multiple times over the course of our, I don't even know now, 20-year marriage almost. But in the last 2 years, I definitely have like wholeheartedly accepted the fact that he is my greatest spiritual teacher. We are always, not always together, but we're married. We have kids together, and so we're together a lot. And there's a lot of times where communication just stinks for whatever reason, and a lot of it comes down to the listening, or rather not listening. And like April said, there's always some other things that you're not picking up on that are included in that. And so in our case, and I think what's the case for a lot of other people, is that person who is closest to you, that knows you're going to like accept them no matter what, will do things that you've had conversations about before to not do, or don't do things that you've had 100 conversations before to do. I used to call it like, he loves to push my buttons, kind of a thing. And now like I just kind of watch, I listen, and I'm like, what do I have internally going on that is reacting to or attracting whatever it is he's dishing out. And so yeah, he's definitely my greatest spiritual teacher. I do think now, and this is a long time now, I think I said this last week, after like the first year of this journey for me, probably a year and a half, maybe. So only like in the last few months, I'd say, I'm starting to see a change. So I think what I was going to say is, offering this person 100% like presence is one thing. But again, like April said, I don't know what their exact situation is, what the history is between the two of them, or what specifically either one is, struggling with or complaining about. But I have been for 2 years being 100% present and just knowing eventually it'll come around. And now it's finally starting. And so now I can see him catching himself. I can see him going, oh, now you're going to say blah, 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 whatever. And I just kind of shrug, and then kind of does whatever it is. But I was listening, I don't know if it was April or Caesar talking about the trash. No, he's fine taking out the trash, but there are things that like were like silent agreements for both of us. And a lot of that comes from our conditioning, our upbringing and what our parents did and what our grandparents did. And that people get into these relationships and they don't know what you're bringing to it. And so we go through, as couples, we go through so much suffering, so much suffering because of that, and just not knowing and not communicating and talking it through and investigating it and all of that stuff. So it makes me think about a few things that we still struggle with as a couple. Like, is it possible that we need to just have a conversation about a few of these things, realign responsibilities or something? And another thing that came up, and I don't know if it was this question or the last, I think it's this one. And that's probably why I wanted to talk after April, expectations, because it's something that I've talked about in a few meditations and was on my podcast that released today, about the amount of suffering that we go through. I know I did, oh my gosh, tons of it, over the expectations that I have for other people, and them, not following through, or expectations of people that people have had for me. And I've like altered who I was because of other people's expectations and the suffering that came with that. So I hadn't shared that in the group, but I'll share that after. Michelle had brought up something about expectations, and I was like, oh, that's right, you listened to the podcast this morning. But yeah, expectations, oh, just let them go. Completely let them go.
Thank you, Eileen. Quite a few nuggets in that little excerpt that you gave.
Yeah,
So,
thank you too.
Expectations, what Eckhart says in The Power of Now is the gap between reality of what is and our expectation. That is the pain gap. That's where the pain arises, because here's our expectation and here is reality of what is. That this person is not taking the trash out or whatever. You can change that expectation to. And it's an insane way to live. That's what he says. It's not a pleasant way to live. So drop your expectations, drop your opinions, drop your thought formations about how she should be, and they will be more acceptance. The other thing I like is about, I wish Caesar was here. One of the things Abraham Hicks says, why do you have buttons that can be pushed? Make them unpushable. She uses such common language, right? She says, make the buttons unpushable. So that examination, what is the button that she is pushing about you? Look at that button, because it's something like, we've talked about abandonment a lot, right? And even Eckhart gives an example in A New Earth. Yeah, you may have a resentment about abandonment, but this person is going to abandon you by like looking at their phone. You're talking to them and they're busy with their phone, right? They're going to show you abandonment, or you're wanting them to come spend time, like sit to a proper dinner, and they're busy with their friend, talking on the phone with their friend. So they're going to show you the button that they're pushing is not that they're showing you that they don't care about you. What they're showing you, and this is the spiritual lesson that I was telling when April was speaking, everything that that person comments about you needs to be examined, because what they're commenting about you is a spiritual truth about you. That is the karmic pattern that Kelly was talking about initially, that we have that karmic pattern within us, and that person is just talking about it or acting it in a different way, but they're showing you what is that button, and examine that button and see the spiritual lesson and drop your karmic pattern. When you heal your karmic pattern, that person will stop pushing the button, or both of you separate. That's what's going to happen. Thank you, Eileen, for that pushing the button scenario. Kelly, it's all yours. It's a beautiful topic.
So yeah, button pushing. Yeah, the elephant in the room. Love that analogy. One of those things where we, put on, as you said, the whole concept of two pain bodies interact, and this is where my understanding of shadow comes into play, where people's shadows and their emotional defense mechanisms will be so synergistic that the relationship is destructive. And that's one of the things that I experienced. And again, I'm stubborn and supportive and didn't quite catch on to what I was on the receiving end of in my relationship with the woman that I married. And that was a profound learning experience. Now, again, I don't know the exact situation, circumstances of Troy's relationship with his wife. Again, you have to examine whether or not, two people in this relationship are both aware and conscious enough to have open two-way dialogue and communication. And that's about as simple as spiritual healing gets, is having that open two-way communication. And, if you have one person pushing and the other person asking questions and wanting to have communication, the other person not wanting to have any communication, well, then there are going to be problems. It doesn't matter, which side of the coin you're on, does not matter. The expectations that we go into a relationship with are learned, society, family, friends, we want to be loved and accepted, and we often compromise ourselves and our lives for having someone in it. And we often don't understand that we've compromised ourselves. So all this resentment and all of these unspoken expectations become very, very present in the relationship and create a lot of friction, a lot of judgment, a lot of anger, because we've never, ever looked at our own expectations or our own understanding of what a relationship should be, or what we actually want, or what actually supports us, because we've never looked at what really does support us and why. And yeah, I've been married, I've been divorced. It's one of those, it was a learning experience. There's a lot of information that I had to dig up and clear in order to be clear on that I did not want to be married to this person and why. And, that's just my path, my experience has given me a lot of great insight. But yeah, a lot of people, if they are unconscious, will come into every situation, not even a relationship or a marriage, but every situation with expectations. And expectations are a karmic pattern. They're the way our mind works until we stop and we still it, until we actually accept that there is a responsibility beyond just getting up, going to work, coming home and sleeping and eating and doing all the basic, quote unquote, human things in this limited third dimensional reality. the reality is that until we actually go inside and look at the way our minds work and even understand even the basic concepts of the way that our minds work and why is like the end all be all of like the why of the why of the why of the why of the why that you observe when you're observing the why. So you got to ask yourself why about everything. Ask yourself why everything, why you think the way that you do, why you feel the way that you do, why you are even observing something the way that you are and feeling the way that you are when you are observing it. And deconstruct every single expectation you have. Every single expectation is a source of anger that your shadow, that your ego can use as fuel to cause separation and chaos, and for a person to be triggered. I mean, that's why people get triggered. That's why people have buttons, or most of us have got buttons. Some of us, I don't know. The whole reality is that the more you learn about the mechanics of how your mind works and discipline yourself to step into observation every single time you get triggered, the less effect those triggers will have, the less buttons you'll have to push, the more indomitable and the more basically invincible to the external pressures of reality you'll become. And that's not mystical, that's not magical, that's literally just the way it works. When you become more present, more emotionally responsible with yourself, and you have that as your discipline, that's the refinement of the why. Why? It's like, well, I don't want to feel that way because it sucks. I got the box full of t-shirts, $8.99. You know, I don't want them anymore. Need to get rid of them. Go to the Goodwill store. Someone else can have them. The thing about relationships is that, yeah, they're a crucible and usually a baptism by fire. And until we stop our minds and look at our whys, the wisdom of our whys, so I can get any more punny here, we'll keep repeating the same patterns until we understand our motivation, until we understand the feelings behind our thoughts that motivate us to have expectations and assumptions about ourselves, never mind someone else. And usually it's when we're getting angry about an unspoken assumption or expectation in a relationship and angered at someone else is because we're not looking at our own stuff. And we're getting angry because we're not stopping ourselves. And anger is all about a lack of communication with self. Because trust me, once you look at your stuff and you find those uncomfortable places and you look at them, you can stop every single little button from ever being pushed ever again. You can feel the pressure of the energy of your ego trying to hook you in. But you can get to a place where it's like you're made out of Teflon, you know, the biodegradable, human-friendly kind of Teflon, not the stuff that's going to mess with your nervous system kind of Teflon. That's the shadow astral kind of Teflon that we don't want, that we convince ourselves we've actually gotten, but it's actually really about control instead of actual stillness and emotional responsibility. So relationships are great. Relationships are awesome. But you have to be ready for communication. And Troy, if there is no communication in a relationship, you know, hey, figure it out. It's real simple math. If there's no communication and no room for communication, my 2 cents.
Thank you, Kelly. So it almost says like you have to generate enough presence power to make your buttons unpushable.
Balance. So excellent observation. And I just want to add, yes, because what you have to do in order to make your buttons unpushable is you have to counterbalance that ego pressure. You have to have enough discipline to counterbalance. And that's a real key. Thank you very much for making that observation put on. That's a really, really key element. Because when you build that balance, that counter pressure, that's when the program starts to burn out. That's when like that spring behind the button just breaks and no longer works.
Perfect. Thank you. Eileen, did you want to read the question from Lakshmi? Lakshmi had a question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I was reading some of the things that people are posting about everything that Caesar and Kelly are sharing. So Lakshmi says, when people say he, she is an old soul, what do they mean? Are some souls new and some old? I know ultimately there's only one all encompassing energy. Do some of us have some of us had more lives than others?
Thank you, Eileen. April, did you want to take that one? And I'll go run.
I think, did we answer this last week? Was it last week or the week before?
Wasn't last week, but
Yeah, because she
And when I
asked
wasn't here.
if why there was so many souls is what she asked, right?
oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why did we have excess amount of souls now or so many?
Excess amount of
So-
human beings. Population is increasing. Why is that?
Yes. The answer is yes. What do they mean? Are some souls new and some souls old? Yes. There is ultimately only one that is dispersed into many to, break it down and make it easy, understandable. A portion of the one is in many of us, having our journeys, our evolution, to go back to the one. And I do believe that there are some souls that are very old and some that are new. The ones, we could use Sadhguru for an example. He's had many lifetimes and then this lifetime. So it seems as though the older souls have a faster evolution in this lifetime towards the spirituality, towards enlightenment. It's not always the case, but they seem to move much faster. But that could also, like, my stepdad, for example, you would not think that he was an old soul because I've described him before. He's very black and white. He's very much a union man. He's very much we must follow the rules. He even got mad at his friends one day because they were not playing volleyball correctly. Like, you must follow the rules. So you wouldn't think he's an old soul, but my 14-year-old has told me that he was in her other lifetimes. So what that brings me around to, Lakshmi, is that this is my stepdad's role in this lifetime. This is his contract in the family this time, is to be that very hard, non-open type of personality for us to look at and then go, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that way. So I'm going to say, yes, there are some souls that I feel are new and that are coming in from other planets to help us. And maybe they haven't been here on Earth the first time, or maybe a soul decides to be here on Earth for the first time. But at the same time, there are very old ones. But if you're asking ultimately, because there's only one, are we all old? Yes. If you want to look at it that way, I think that's what she's getting to at the end there.
She's actually asking, let me read it. If we are the one encompassing energy, do some of us have more lives than others?
Yes, we do. But I get where she's trying to reconcile, well, if we're all the one, then how does that work? But yes, I do think that some of us have had more lifetimes than others. More, some of us have chosen to come down here more than others. So, and I'm sure that, the others on the panel, they can clear it up, define
Thank
it
you.
a little better.
Thank you, April. And the way I've heard Eckhart Tolle talk about an old soul and a new soul, he says, if you are an old soul, then you don't suffer too much in this. I mean, everybody suffers, but you won't suffer that much. So it almost is like, to me, it felt that old soul does not have that much karmic density. And you said the same thing, April. Then they move faster towards spiritual growth, right? Because their karmic density is not that much. They suffer quickly, and then they're already on their way to evolution, evolving in their spiritual practice. But if you are a new soul, then you go through, and what I feel, the new soul may not even awaken in this lifetime. They may have to wait for the next lifetime. So thank you, April, for that. Eileen, did you want to say something about this?
No, I don't think I have anything to add to this, but I definitely enjoy listening and learning.
Thank you. Caesar, did you want to say something about this old soul, new soul, and how many lives have he had?
Sure. I think when people reference an old soul, I believe they're more so just suggesting that you are a little more knowledgeable than perhaps somebody who is not an old soul. For instance, there's a guitar phenom child, 12 years old, who is playing some of the greatest guitar players on the planet with ease. So some might say he is an old soul. For having, it's almost like a carryover, like you said about the karmic. It's almost like the carryover of knowledge is very immense and greater than somebody who has perhaps not traveled their journey as diligently and has figured it out through the human experience. Again, it's we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around. So somebody who has, again, reached the precipice of this journey for whatever reasons on a previous timeline might be a little more advanced in obtaining the knowledge of somebody who might be slightly enlightened or more advanced, someone who has more clarity, that can see things for what they are with an understanding, which again is carried over by bringing the lessons past learned through previous timelines into this timeline. Because there's, even I've seen and talked to people who I just wondered, how did you get so much knowledge and where did you get your information? And they said, I just know. I just kind of they just know these things, and it fascinates me to no end. And some of these people I have talked to, and I would refer to them obviously as being old souls, for having carried that knowledge over with them through many lifetimes. We are, I mean, in the big picture, I think through each lifetime, we take away little pieces of what we came here to do, and that's to expand, ultimately, and learn and grow and all that other good stuff. But it's not so much the ability to maintain that. It's just if you don't get it right and learn what you came to learn in a previous lifetime, then you might not be as advanced in this one as some people who may have gathered them lessons from previous lifetimes and so on and so forth. So Yeah, an old soul, I think, is just making reference to somebody who has carried over the vast knowledge um, from previous lifetimes. Yeah, so let's see, do some of us have more lives than others? Absolutely. Some people are on their 10th go around, some people are on their 5th go around, you know. And at what point do you stop? It's up to you, I suppose. And having learned and accomplished and completed your chart, satisfaction with your agreement, I believe, um, something to that nature. So, yes, I believe that.
Thank you so much, Caesar. And we kind of like almost think that it is a calculation of whether we will come back to Earth and learn an Earth lesson. But just, I mean, I've not died to go through that final review, life review, to actually figure out how do we figure out that we'll come back on Earth again. But to me, if my body is gone, there's no brain that is calculating, oh, I did this and this and this. So I need to, it's like, I think Kelly was saying, yeah, Kelly was saying last week, it almost is a metaphysical psychic energy, like communication, right? Like at the telepathic level, you're, and supposedly, according to what Dr. Eben Alex, like people with near-death experience will explain it, and like it as a channeled experience, even Seth explains it, and Seth speaks that it's like at that psychic energy level, the lessons can also be in the other realm. We don't have to take birth on Earth to learn lessons. Like these lessons, oh, envy is a pattern in me, anger is a pattern in me, I need to heal that pattern. All those lessons can be learned in the other realm as well. That person in their life, they can pass away and then it just stay in the other realm. They don't have to take birth, and all that is determined by, once you go, your spirit guides will guide you and show, okay, what is the next aspect to it. And I'm talking like very logically in words. I don't think it is any words or any logic. It's just psychic energy that it happens. Kelly, I'll hand it over to you to explain some more. Also, and did we have many lives? Thank you.
Short answer is yes. Yes, and sort of, kind of. The reality is that anyone on this planet right now is an old soul. Some have their information closer to the surface than others because of the paths that they have walked. Yes, there are souls that are younger and older. And again, this is sort of one of those quandaries where people just, oh, well, we're all just like one energy. So it's all like, when you get over there, it doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, but the soul level evolution is always ongoing. And there are different levels of it. There is structure to the energy and the spaces and the dimensions of energy and the hierarchies of light on the other side of the veil that some of us may or may not feel this lifetime, may or may not connect with this lifetime. That's next. I'm just going to go back to Lakshmi's. So there's also, just in terms of giving you guys a real quick breakdown of the structure in the spiritual realms, you have emanations. You have like literally ripples outward from the center of creation, kind of like what astrophysicists talk about, the layers of stars outward from the Big Bang, from the center of the universe. Same kind of concept. That is a perfect example of how the spiritual realm and the physical realms actually mirror each other perfectly. And this is one of the things that we are working on as soul embodiments on this planet having a human experience, is how to identify and evolve past the illusion of separation to all that information. And yeah, so, again, have some people had more, lives than others? Well, yeah. But again, we're also multidimensional beings. So we're always having experiences. We have multiple embodiments going on all the time, all at once. So we shouldn't fixate on whether or not someone's had more lifetimes than another person on this planet, because they might be embodying on, another planet as another being. And that's a whole other can of worms. But in terms of the energetic multidimensionality of the human experience, then yes, some souls are older. Some souls were born at the same time as the universe was created, at the time of the Big Bang. And some of those souls are probably here on this planet guiding younger souls, or souls that were not created at the time of the Big Bang, but were created, a few emanations out from the Big Bang, or, in this part of the galaxy, which is sort of like nearest to the youngest part of the galaxy. So the aspects of, needing to understand old souls is very simple. It's, how calm they are, how capable they are of being emotionally present and emotionally responsible. And even if someone is an old soul, they all have learning to do. They all have information to process. So whether or not, someone is an old soul, and, I don't really agree that there's less suffering. I just think that there is different learning to awaken old souls than there is younger souls. And again, that's sort of also kind of a label that we can get stuck on, and we can let our egos sort of like perpetuate a loop of mental analysis about, old souls this, old soul that. The only thing that's important is whether or not you're actually communicating with yourself. And, it's cool when you run into people who get it. And sometimes they're old souls, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're young souls, or really, fresh embodiments. People, like little 6-month-old babies who, all you have to do is like look in their eyes and it's like, gotcha, right? So, I mean, I could talk about this particular topic endlessly because it's one of my favorite topics. I remember a lot of my past lives. I used to have quite conscious control over them when, bye, April. Good to see you again. And, it's something that's also caused a lot of ego attachment in the New Age and spiritual communities, is the definition of soul level or soul evolution, right? So, which is another form of spiritual materialism, and can cause a lot of ego attachment without us being aware of it, because we just think that we're trying to figure stuff out. But it is something to be aware of that can cause ego attachment. It's good to have as a point of reference. The most important thing to understand about soul evolution is that everyone's going through it. So, it doesn't really matter, because what matters is being able to listen to your heart. What matters is being able to go inside and being aligned with yourself and listening to yourself and being responsible for yourself. Because when you get inside and when you're present and you are emotionally evolving and spiritually evolving, stuff like, who's an old soul or not, or who's had more lives or not, becomes absolutely irrelevant, because it's not important. At the end of the day, what's important is being kind, being loving, being gracious, being considerate, and supporting yourself and loving yourself, and supporting others and loving others.
Those were your 2 cents.
Nickel, dime.
Lakshmi said, I would like to learn about the can of worms in our next session about dimensions. So we can start off with that next time. This was beautiful, incredibly amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to Troy and Lakshmi for contributing towards the questions, as well as our other co-creator who I haven't seen on here, but I'm sure she has messages, Summer, for coming up with all these questions about the pain body.
She's
And
driving tonight.
she's driving?
She's gonna watch it later. She's driving, I think.
Okay, awesome. And incredibly amazing that everyone on the panel had all these responses. I'll take the silver dollar. Okay, thank you, Kelly. And incredible experience. So have a fantastic week. We will meet for group meditation. Many blessings to everyone. Much love. Good night. Thank you. Bye.